the Kingdom safely through to the semi-final. A straightforward 32 points to 121 win to dethrone champions Armagh. Liam, Brosnan, John Kennedy and Andrew Moynihan in studio to review it over the next hour or so. We'll also be looking ahead to the minor final as well next Sunday. Liam, couldn't have asked for much better yesterday, could we?
Jesus, no, Ivan, and you're spot on with our entrance there. There's a glow of a Kerry today, even though the sun isn't shining. There's a lot of people smiling, and it was a performance I suppose none of us really expected. I think when you go out and kick 32 points in an All-Ireland quarter-final against the All-Ireland champions, it was it reminded me of the Dublin performance the year we won the All-Ireland 21 lads, wasn't it? Yeah. The expectation going into it, the whole lot, and then Shawnee Shea just took over. It had all the resemblance of it really, but like if it was 32 points in a hurling match, they'd be raving about it. Can you imagine 32 points and 30 points from play? Yeah. So it was outstanding. I give credit for everyone in the panel. The management, the medical team especially. I was watching Jimmy Galvin and Paddy McQuinn. Like the work that they have done in the last couple of weeks, I'd say is just unreal altogether. Oh, they have, without a doubt. I'd say they haven't slept, and they probably won't sleep for the next 2 weeks. But it was an incredible effort from every one of them, because no one gave us a chance going up there. And I have a sneaky suspicion that Armagh bought into it a small bit, because you could see from their body language when we hit them, it was like they were on the ropes. They just had no answer for us. But as we'll delve into it there a bit more, the performances by the fellas on the pitch was unbelievable.
Yeah, absolutely. John, they answered a lot of critics I think this week. I think Jack spoke well after the game as well, saying that there was a lot of, I suppose, especially since the Meath game, I suppose we beat Cavan last weekend, and that was nearly presumed to be a foregone conclusion, and this was kind of the big one to get right. And Jack said it after as well, they proved a lot of people wrong midweek, I think.
Yeah, and the criticism, I suppose, constructive criticism, Ivan, we can all, any of us that have been involved, you'll take that. But, some people go over the top. As I said here a few weeks ago, Liam and myself up in Tullamore, like you saw, the feeling and the look on the people, on the families' faces after the game. They were hurting. I think Shawnee Shea and David coming out, calling the Kerry supporters, this was a call to arms really, circle the wagons, and when Kerry are down and when they're hurt, they're a wounded animal, and I can tell you, they came out the last day, you'd see it, the minute the warm-up started. Liam, we were just talking about it off air, they were up for it, they were fist pumping at each other, and they took it into the game. And really, I mean, the second half performance, and particularly that 15 minutes, was probably one of the best 15 minutes of any Kerry team. And I'd agree with Liam, the management team, when you win, the players get all the credit. When you lose, question marks about the management team. The fitness levels are questioned, how we're getting so many injuries, Jack not making this switch, not playing. At times we don't all agree with the selection Jack makes, but he's picking from a team inside in training. He's looking at the guys that are going well, and I'd have to say, starting Mark O'Shea and bringing on Micheál Burns, everything he did, bringing on Paddy at half time, Evan Looney, everything worked. And unfortunately we lost Tom Sullivan again, but to zone in on the positives, great day for Kerry, a fantastic performance and a much needed victory, and the whole county is delighted, and fair play to the Kerry supporters, went in their thousands, and it was needed. Yeah,
it was a great Kerry crowd. You could hear the roar as well. Andrew, we're the younger stock here in the studio, was that probably the best Kerry performance?
Thanks.
No offence intended.
Compliments are
flying already. Yeah.
Flying in to see. We're in great form here tonight. Andrew, I suppose from a Kerry perspective, in your lifetime, definitely one of the best performances, especially in the second half.
Yeah, and even Friday evening, I was at that game in 2009. One of my first games, I'd say, in Croker, that the start of the Learweeks game versus Dublin in the quarter final. I watched it back on Friday evening, and just even sitting there yesterday full time, I was saying that second half nearly tops that first half against Dublin in 2009. It was absolutely spellbinding football. Armagh, they're such a mentally strong side. For 15 minutes yesterday, they were shell shocked. They are absolutely, we scored 14 points, we won 10 kickouts on both sides, winning turnovers. Armagh persisted with that kick out over to the Hogan stand side. I've never seen Armagh lose the heads like they did in that second half. It was the 40th minute, it was 116 to 14 points, Armagh up 5. all of a sudden 15 minutes later we're up 9 points. It was absolutely a performance for the ages by a Kerry team in the second half, by a wounded Kerry team as well. Another injury to Tom O'Sullivan, and just a number of other injuries. Of course, Diarmuid and Barry Dan were down our main midfield. Fair play to the Kerry team, fair play to Jack O'Connor and management. They came with a plan yesterday. They executed it absolutely brilliantly. It wasn't even a bad first half even. We kept in it. We let a sloppy point at the end of the first half, and the goal of course was maybe sloppy as well, but apart from that it was just an absolutely fantastic Kerry performance and one to be proud of.
Yeah, absolutely. Liam, we talked about that second half for a long time. I suppose you were on duty as well. You were giving your thoughts at half time yesterday. What was the general feel maybe at half time? We were down that point. Obviously Armagh came and then they went 5 clear in the couple of minutes after half time, but up to that stage Kerry were performing well enough, weren't they?
We were performing well enough, but the danger signs were there with Armagh. They were very controlled, and I think that play at the very end of the first half showed how controlled they were. They held on to the ball. Next day all of a sudden there was a move off the shoulder, and I think it was Joe McElroy that kicked the ball over the bar. They were, but the one thing with the Kerry boys, and especially David and it was something that I'd be mad for calling for at times, is that David took so much attraction. There was 3 guys and people were kind of wondering why David was standing in the corner flag for a lot of the first half. He was pulling 3 guys out of the middle for most of the time, and we didn't really take a whole pile of advantage out of it. There was spaces there. There was one-on-ones there for Kerry guys that got on the ball. There was a one-on-one chance, but we were shredding it, we were kind of passing it and walking away from it. But that changed completely in the second half. When the space, David came into the middle a bit more, looking for a bit more responsibility. Obviously Paddy was a huge experience off the bench, and he controlled everything. But in the first half we just didn't take the chances or the possibilities that were there. But by God, did we take them in the second half.
Yeah, absolutely. John, I suppose personally watching it, if I feared the worst maybe 5 minutes into the second half. We went 4 or 5 points down, but it was 14 points unanswered. Then after that it was a real turnaround. But at that point when Armagh kind of got maybe a foothold in the game, we had brought on Paddy, we were kind of thinking maybe this is not going to go our way at this stage.
Yeah, you would, like Liam said, they certainly didn't expect what happened to happen. That's guaranteed anyway, and typical of Armagh, the way they recycled the ball for that score from McElroy, we felt it was a sign of things to come in the second half. Paddy coming in. Paddy is crucial to this team because not alone the game and the imprint he has on it, but it afforded then that they had to come out and take Paddy.
There's another set of eyes there to watch.
And David got that bit more space.
Yeah.
And I think as well, and we've said it here for a number of weeks now, Graham O'Sullivan, it didn't seem to be working the last 2 games. I think in the Cavan game we got a glimpse of it, but I thought it was his best hour on Sunday. His work rate, kicked 2 points, but he was ferocious all day. And he Joe O'Connor's second half performance, this was top drawer stuff by Joe. Wasn't in the game, great move by the selectors, bring him into the middle of the field, got him involved, and all this happened with the impact of Paddy, Michael Burns. It all clicked, and that 15 minutes was a golden spell.
Yeah, and when you said it clicked, because what was happening was they had so much focus on David. Next thing, Shawnee kicked 8 points in the first half, so their focus had to be on David and Shawnee, and all of a sudden then Paddy was sprung from the bench, and it just created the space for the likes of Joe, Michael Burns to go up the middle. Brino Begley's point was a typical example.
Yeah.
He just went at it. He turned on I think it was on the left and popped it over the bar. It was just that everything kind of worked, and everyone took a bit of responsibility, and it created the space. We had no fellas shrugging away from the kick the last day, because we wouldn't have kicked 30 or 32 points if guys weren't willing to kick the ball over the back. I think we had 36 shots and we scored 27. Our scoring rate was 75%.
6 fellas scoring 2 points each.
Yeah, which is huge, and that comes with, and we've been speaking about it here, that we're always saying it's a one-man team, and I think Armagh bought into the small bit. Kerry were probably a one-man team, and next thing all of a sudden Shawnee just opened up, and all of a sudden they were kind of saying, what do we do here? Do we stand off and do we go? And then the space created for everybody else, and we took advantage of it.
And I think on that, Ivan, the one-man team, Joe Brawley had an article in the paper yesterday. I got a few phone calls today from people in North Kerry, it was disrespectful to Kerry. Every guy's entitled his opinion, but we're far from a one-man team. And I thought Shawnee Shea gave an exhibition yesterday. We know he's a superb footballer, carrying a few knocks for the last number of weeks and months. But his body language, the fist pumping to the crowd, like there was the pride in the crowd and the way they reacted to it. They were up for it. You could hear Kerry. We didn't hear it this year.
That's the first time I heard it this year.
And to be fair, we're far from a one-man team. Of course, we have a few marquee players, and David is a player for the ages. We all know that. But you can add in. You look at Jason Foley, Gavin White, Joe O'Connor, Paddy Clifford, Shawnee Shea. I mean, Paul Ganey wasn't in it.
Shane Ryan, Paul Murphy.
Yeah. We have players that on any era you can compare them to the best. And I think it was disrespectful to all of us as Kerry people, and particularly to the Kerry team and management, that we're a one-man team. I thought that was very disappointing from a man that should know better.
Yeah, absolutely. One man we did mention there, Andrew, was Shane Ryan. We talked about the first half and kind of, going maybe the point down, but could have been a lot more down if it wasn't for some massive saves in that first half.
Yeah, and that's been the story with Shane all year. And time and time again, look at the saves he's made in the Championship. Against Cork in that round-robin game, he made 2 or 3 crucial saves in that first half. Meath should have had a lot more goals against us in that round-robin game up in Tullamore just under 3 weeks back if it wasn't for Shane. He made some great saves that day too. Has saved our bacon on a number of occasions and got his plaudits yesterday, duly deserved. Even the hill where there was chance of Shane coming from the hill by the end of the game yesterday, well deserved. He made 3 fantastic saves. Look at the one, me and John mentioned it just off air before we came on, the one where he punched the ball out just to get rid of danger.
That's right.
Absolutely fantastic. Great save he made in the first half. And even when the Armagh player was coming through, can't think of his name right now, but just in the first half, I had a slight inkling this is Shane's gravy. He can make these he can stop these shots. Colossal. He is our shot stopper. Maybe doesn't get the respect he deserves around the country as one of the top keepers. I think yesterday was just the day for Shane Ryan.
Yeah, there was one Liam there, I think maybe it was the first one or the second big save he made, but he was completely unsighted. There was a Kerry defender,
a lot of bodies in front of him, that's right.
A lot of bodies, and got the touch and conceded the point obviously, but he kind of reminds me of a stock keeper type. He's able to get to corners that you wouldn't think are possible either.
And for, like you said, like a soccer goalkeeper, because he's a big man, but he's very agile. He's a great shot stopper. And what was very impressive as well yesterday was our kick-outs. And I was just looking at it, like, I'm not a big man for a lot of stats now, and there's a lot of stats.
Andrew usually.
The scoring, the young fella. The scoring and the kick-out stats are very, they're something I look at, especially the way the game has gone. Like, we had Kerry had 27 kick-outs and we won 21, which is big in this day and age now. When you look at Armagh, they had 33 kick-outs and they only won 20.
Yeah.
No, so that shows the pressure on the kicker. How important a kick out is in this day and age now of this game is just incredible. Because when we pushed up on them in the second half, when in that spell for 15 minutes, they could not get their hands on the ball. We had Micheál Burns who kicked a fantastic point. He dummied fellas, he went out, and the next kick out, he fielded the ball out in the midfield himself, out his side. And like Andrew said, he was wondering why Armagh kept going down that side underneath the stand, but in their thinking they had trained basically that's the smallest side for Kerry.
Yeah.
Your small men are down there, that's where we're going to put the ball the whole time, but our small men were 6 foot tall, 7 foot tall yesterday. They grew in stature as the game went on.
John, isn't momentum a funny thing in sport? I mean, you kind of look at it, you kind of say, once Kerry got a grip on it, they could have kept going. I think the game could have gone for another 70 minutes and Kerry would have stayed putting over point. They just couldn't miss, they couldn't falter, they weren't dropping balls, the pass. Like, for Armagh, kind of watching that and the momentum, the crowd is with Kerry, like, it must be a very tough place to be for the opponents yesterday.
Oh, there's no doubt, and Liam and myself are at the end of that. We said this before here down in Cork one night, and when the tide is thrown against you, there's nothing you can do, only grin and bear it. But I'd love to have been a fly on the wall in the Kerry dressing room for the last 2 weeks, because the way they came out, galvanised as a team, Jack said it, they're a tight bunch. Shawnee Shea said it, the passion they came out with. This is real Kerry, and they explored, they expressed themselves, they drove into everything. When they didn't win clean ball, they won the break. They out Armagh the way they played, because this was Kerry vintage. Our kicking game, the 2-pointers, the winning possession, the driving on, the closing down, the energy they had, and the subs coming on. There was no heads down. You look at Mark O'Shea going off, see him up on the big screen. The man was drained. He had left every ounce out in the pitch. What a game he put in, like hard graft, and that's what you need, and that's all you want from any team. And fair play to them, they did. It was one of the best overall performances, and you could see it afterwards. Jack and all the backroom team, smile on the face, pressure off. Because this was a huge game. We said it last week. It was a season-defining game for the players and management, and they responded.
And like the players were missing, and Andrew in truth there a while ago. Like even when Tom Sullivan came off and to be replaced with Evan Looney, we even said it above in the box, and we kind of said, look, Tom's going to be a loss experience-wise. But we knew, and I think that goes back to the Meath game when the panel was kind of being judged that it wasn't strong enough. But we knew that Evan Looney was going to fit in there like a glove, and he did. So there's nothing wrong with our Kerry panel, and we said that here tonight after the Meath game, that it was one of those games. It was, and we also said that we'd love to see him go out again the following week, that team to start again and have a go at it. But they proved yesterday that these boys are well able to carry that Kerry jersey.
Yeah, absolutely. We have to go for a quick break. Do keep your comments coming in. We usually get hundreds and hundreds on a night where there's a defeat, so we'll keep the positive ones coming in after a fantastic performance. It's great to see so many people wishing well for the Tyrone game, so keep the comments coming in. We'll try to get through as many as we can. 083 300 3300. You can text or WhatsApp us on that number, or as I say, you can give Niamh a call 066 7123 666. Now, as you mentioned, plenty of comments to get to. I'd like to congratulate the fabulous win by the Kerry team yesterday. It made my journey home very short. The incident where Dylan Gainey was fouled inside the square, which should have been a definite penalty, was not given. The referee was not up at the play, and he should have contacted and discussed with his umpires. If Kerry lost by a point, it would be a different take. And that's from Michael Brosnan, Skibbereen. Thanks, Mike, for getting in touch. That was kind of reviewed a good few times on the telly, and it was shown as well last night. Liam, mightn't have been a huge one, but it's funny, isn't it, how if we're beaten or if it's now, we're always giving out one or two decisions, but after yesterday you feel like we leave everything
we don't mind really, but no, to be fair, I suppose when it happened at the time, we were all roaring for a penalty, and I suppose when it came up on the screen then in front of us in the press box, you could see it was kind of his momentum that kind of knocked him to the ground. Obviously he got a bit of a push. Like if it happened the other end and they were giving a penalty, we'd be kind of giving out about it. But the thing I was kind of giving out about it was David Clifford was running onto it.
Yeah,
I thought it was a pass for David that he got instead of David. Another kind of way.
It was funny actually. It showed it actually had telly in slow motion, and you could nearly see David's face saying no. Why couldn't they left it for me? But I see where you're coming from. Hi Ivan, well done to the players and management on a fantastic performance in Croke Park yesterday. The support from the stands was immense. A proud day to be from the kingdom. That's Katrina listening in Tralee. And I think, John, that was there. I think a lot of the negativity from the Meath game, and one of the toughest ones to read was that the players had no pride in the jersey. And personally, I'd nearly take that to heart myself, never mind the players. And I think yesterday, it's the support got from everybody listening on the radio, watching TV, and in Croke Park. And there's so many Kerry tops around Tralee. I was driving in there today. It's all back on again.
Oh, there's no doubt about it. And we were coming out of Tullamore and we were discussing the car down, Liam, myself and Tim and Billy. Where are we at? How good are Meath? Well, I think Meath showed at the weekend how good they are. Do you see? And because Meath were beaten by Louth, people were saying, and it can change. The mindset can change so quickly. But Meath they've come from nowhere. They beat us above fair and square, but they beat a very good Galway side. And you have to look at it, puts things in perspective. But to say that players hadn't the pride in the jersey and stuff, bit overboard, in fairness. There's never a Kerry player that goes out that hasn't pride in that jersey. Some days it doesn't work, and everybody that played it had days like that. But this is a certainly, it has got Kerry back on track. It has got the county going, and some of the criticism has stung, and this is the reaction. Yeah. And so it's great. It's great to be involved, and there was a buzz around last night and a buzz around this morning. Everyone we met today around the county, delighted with the performance. Obviously the result, looking forward now. Suddenly now we're going to win the All-Ireland.
we need someone now to say something bad for the title, just to get everything going now again. Like just Joe Bradley now. Text Joe there, will you?
Well, lads, I don't think I've been this excited for an instalment of Terrace Talks I have today. I think we're all in the same boat here in the studio. I think we're all looking forward to 6 o'clock on Monday evening. So thanks for tuning your way. Absolutely fantastic result yesterday. The turning point of the game was the substitution of Paddy, the 2-pointer by David, the one that put Kerry a point ahead. The second point that went over, the Armagh keeper was rocked. Then having won nearly every break from the keeper's kickouts and midfield. It was the moment the 16th man kicked in. Joe O'Connor and Shawnee, Evan Looney, David and Co played out of their skin. Nice to see some Brazilian style football again from the Kingdom. Huge game versus Tyrone, but nice to see a glimmer of what we're made of from extremely happy Timmy in Drummond, Kerry, Abu. And like that, I think that mention of the 16th man, Andrew, and the Brazilian football and everything else, isn't it just so great to be talking so positively this evening on the show?
Yeah, football won at the weekend, definitely, and it was just fantastic from Kerry. And I even in the first half, I got a kind of a look. I don't know, do you remember Messi's goal where the commentator saying Ankara Messi? Messi. In the first half, David Clifford's first point just completely reminded me of that, where he rounded 3 Armagh lads after winning the kick out. Fantastic performance by him. I think one man who hasn't been mentioned as well, Gavin White, one of his best performances in the Kerry jersey. 2 points, 4 points assisted, turned over the first ball in the first half, and won 4 kickouts. He topped their kickouts. Just a brilliant performance. It was just all around that second half. It was absolutely top dollar from Kerry. And Brazilian football, you can call it whatever you want. It was just fantastic. It just came together so well as well. A unit, and that's what we've been talking about. Maybe this kind of forward unit has been clicking as well as we want it to be. At the weekend, it just clicked so well. And Paddy, you can see from the moment he entered, he injected himself, assisted a point straight away. He got 2 points. The way he pulled the brakes for the fist over the bar as well, just absolutely fantastic. Himself and Burns linked up absolutely brilliantly.
Yeah, and Ivan, just in there, we've nearly everyone mentioned now at this stage, but our full back line were excellent. I know it's not the most glamorous spot in the world, but like Dylan Casey, Jason and Paul Murphy, like they were dealing with Oisin Conte and Rian O'Neill and these guys. Jeez, they had fierce battles. Like Dylan and Rian O'Neill, they nearly came away with each other's hands and jerseys. They were, every time there was a kind of a free minute or a free second, they were poking each other. They were just constant, so it was from Shane all the ways out. Like you couldn't ask for a better performance.
Absolutely. Mick and Dingle living in Meath had a feeling in his stomach they were going to win all week. I think we all had that sneakily, but we didn't want to say it too loudly. He said there hasn't been a game like it since the 1975 when a young Kerry man went up to Dublin and beat them. A young Kerry team rather went up to Dublin to beat them, and nobody gave them a hope. Thanks, Mick. During our way in Meath, he'd be a happy man for the Meath side of the house as well. Hi, Ivan. A great performance by Kerry. It was a joy to watch. I wouldn't take any notice of Joe Brawley. He loves having a go at Kerry football. He does it to get attention. That's from Charles. Thanks for listening as well this evening, Charles. I suppose to come back to lads, I suppose we were playing the defending champions Armagh. Kerry were completely written off by bookmakers, journalists and everything else. So what went wrong from Armagh, Liam, that they didn't manage to beat a Kerry that shouldn't have won that game apparently?
I just think that they believed the hype that Kerry weren't going well, and that Kerry were a kind of a one-man show. And then when Paddy was, and with our injury list and everything, it just looked as if they were, because in the first half they came out very controlled. Compared to what last year, they were very chaotic last year. It was kind of organised chaos. Like we can remember, I think was it Turbot, remember underneath the stand, Connor Turbot ran off 100 miles an hour up the stand with a ball and got a score out of it. There was nothing from like that Armagh yesterday. They were trying to, I know, could you say, trying to be too smart, that kind of a way. But obviously when Kerry started firing in all cylinders, they had no answer to us. But definitely I think Armagh were kind of put into a bit of an ambush.
Yeah, absolutely. John, I suppose not to look ahead too much, it's 2 weeks away, but Tyrone, a good win against Dublin, 3 2-pointers to start off the game, and they finished the game very, very strong as well. It was a good weekend of football in general, but Tyrone, Dublin and kind of Kerry Armagh were the two ones that were standing out before weekend, let me put it that way.
Yeah, great weekend of football, Ivan. And Tyrone, we fancied them to beat Dublin. Made hard work of it, I suppose. Peter Hart kicking a couple of great 2-pointers. Matty Donnelly rolling back the years. I think Derek Canavan, we got a glimpse of what he can do. They did it without McCurry playing well. Obviously they're the subs they brought on, McElhone and Rory Canavan. They're class footballers. They have had the edge on us. And I think 'tis the draw we wanted, because Tyrone, the last number of occasions that we've met them at underage and senior, they've beaten us, and they'll be tough nut to crack. But it's back to the drawing board for Kerry. Hopefully that maybe that a few of the Paul Ganey in particular, I think to be great to have Paul back in the frame for the semi-final, because I think Paul, with the space that's been created above on the attention to David, I think he's a man that he'll chip in 3 or 4 points. He'll use his experience. Hopefully Tom O'Sullivan is not too bad either. That it's it may be a twinge more than a pull. But look, it's Tyrone, always difficult to beat when they get to semi-final or quarter-final in Croke Park. Malachy O'Rourke has done a great job, and a tough nut to crack, but I suppose a lot to happen in the next 2 weeks before we actually see the teams that are on the field and how things go.
Absolutely. Common Line is blowing up, Ivan. A big Kerry support had a big part to play in how Kerry kept the momentum for that 15 minutes. I'd be hoping that supporters will make the journey again in similar numbers for the semi-final, despite the Saturday evening throw-in. Form book goes out the window when Kerry meet Tyrone in Croke Park. Kerry, a boo on that one. Hi lads, anyway, we can re-listen to Tim and Ambrose's live commentary of the game. Well, it was Tim and Billy O'Shea who did a superb job standing in for Ambrose, and of course Liam on analysis. Also shout out to the Mayor Ishka, he was great in the sideline. He was getting the crowd going when Kerry scored. That's from Tony in the gap. That was actually, Joe, I listened back to some of it today. It's on the Radio Kerry website, so if you go onto the podcast section and you kind of find there's a match commentary section on that, and it's the top one there to listen back to it. Mayor Ishka getting the crowd going. Do we spot that one?
That's Otter, yeah. Otter is Otter's a very animated kind of a guy in the sideline, alright, and so yeah, he was turning around at times. But to be fair, the Kerry players were doing it, and they called for arms with the last week, you could say, and the Kerry supporters did respond. And like we said at the start, it was the first time all year that even in the first half there was a Kerry, and you could see it lifted them. And to be fair, when the game finished, you could see how appreciated the players and management were. They clapped the crowd coming off the field, so it was, and I agree with our listener there, it was the 16th man that got us over the line.
Definitely, yeah.
David, obviously he left the limelight to Shawnee yesterday with 12 points for 12 plastic, but David knows, at the end of the day, he is the marquee player. And yesterday, whenever he got the score, it got that extra bit of a cheer, and he knows too, he can give a big cheer to the crowd, because he knows that will get the crowd going. And Shawnee fed off that too. You could see Shawnee at the end of the game, the passion he showed at full time.
That picture is doing their own.
There's a fantastic fantastic photos as well of Shane Ryan and Paddy Clifford jumping high in the air, and you could see it meant a lot to these lads.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think John, thinking back to that semi-final last year, I think we mentioned this not so long ago as well, the Armagh support was absolutely insane that day, and the noise from the Armagh crowd was huge. But Kerry kind of got one back over on them, and I think the support, the orange does stand out, when you're watching it on the screen and when you're in Croke Park. But the noise from the Kerry supporters definitely outreached Armagh, and again, what the players are doing on the pitch calls for that as well, didn't it?
I did, and look, they followed on when they called during the week for the supporters to go out, and they certainly responded on the field, gave Kerry something to cheer about, because if you let a team like Armagh, teams work and they play on adrenaline, and when the crowd buy into it, it's very difficult. And Armagh were the All-Ireland champions, and they're a fantastic team. But I suppose if you look at it, we spoke about our strength in depth. When you look at like Soupy Campbell, Rian O'Neill, Farker wasn't himself carrying an injury. The lads that came in. Did we think yesterday morning that the two midfielders would be substituted for Armagh?
Right, yeah.
Did we think that Rory Grogan, who we spoke about as a fantastic athlete, that he'd be curtailed to the extent he was? No, we didn't. I suppose the one player that stood out, particularly in the first half, was Charlie O'Byrne. He going off for 10 minutes with that head injury. Certainly Armagh lost the impetus, but Kerry, the juggernaut was on the way at that stage. It didn't really matter.
Yeah, absolutely. I would like to congratulate the Kerry team and management on what was a game for the ages yesterday. I've been attending Kerry games in Croke Park for over 50 years since I was a small child, rarely missing a match. What we witnessed yesterday, especially in the second half, was just sublime. It was a complete performance led by Shawnee O'Shea, who had an unbelievable first half too. The disappointment and hurt fueled by unfair comment, particularly on social media, was enough to put the fire in those hearts who graced Croke Park yesterday. We witnessed a masterclass in the implementation of the new rules, a system we had always hoped would suit Kerry's graceful style and approach. Come at the hour, come at the man. Kerry Abuga Joe, put up your flags now and support our boys who give us such unbridled joy and pride in our county. That was a lovely email we got a little earlier on today as well. Liam, I suppose we kind of touched on Tyrone and Dublin. Of course, the game before the Kerry game yesterday was Meath against Galway, a Meath team that people had written off. They came, beat Kerry, and they've come back. They've dethroned Dublin along the way as well. Now they've knocked out last year's All-Ireland finalists. They'll have a good chance against Donegal in the semi-final.
I think they have a fantastic chance, Ivan, and just watching them yesterday and the day above against them ourselves. No, they're a big, strong, mobile team, and I think they're going to cause Donegal a lot of trouble. And not only that, they have scoring forwards as well, and they have forwards that like taking on their men. And they have the Matthew Costello's back, John, who's John knew about him before I knew about him. He was a fantastic. He yesterday, if you saw on the television, his goal. Or not his goal, but the goal he passed. It was a no-look basketball pass. Yeah, there was bodies coming to clean him, and he just popped it, and they got the vital goal. But I give Meath a great chance against Donegal, because
we were talking about it beforehand, Ivan, outside, like Jordan Morris, first 3 balls, 3 wides. It is an example to young fellas. Did he drop the head? No. He's that kind of a player, heads up football. He ended up with one, and got some brilliant scores.
If that happened in club, John, would be calling him a cocky little boy. Or
we take him off.
Look at that fella.
But the job that Robbie Brennan has done with this team, where did they come from? And isn't it great to see the Royals, as they say, back again, and the crowd and the noise they created yesterday?
It shows if you get him a bit of momentum.
Yeah, absolutely. And the other game then of the weekend, probably the one that was kind of forgotten a bit, Andrew, was Donegal Monaghan. Monaghan gave him a fierce fright. I was here working with Joe on Saturday, and he came on and goes, Monaghan are 5 points clear. I was like, that game is far from over. It's the new rules and everything else, and Donegal came back strong towards the end, but they were going to a game at Meath where they mightn't be these outright favourites people be making them out to be.
No, not at all. And we're kind of waiting for you could see patches, and especially the second half from Donegal was fantastic. The way they just obviously it was just a marked improvement on that first half. They just couldn't seem to crack them on inside, and obviously as time went on, you could see the impact that Donegal could get off the bench. They could call up on McBrearty. They brought on O'Donnell, Darrow Boyle, what a man to bring off the bench, and Jim McGuinness, he's not afraid to take off marquee players. He took off Oisin Gallen when he wasn't firing, and they just seem to have this sort of panel. Maybe you could compare their second half to our second half as well, where they just seemed to blitz Monaghan, and Monaghan didn't seem to have the answers. But they're heading into a semi-final now against Meath, and as the lad said, you have to give Meath a great chance. They've earned their respect now at this stage. They've beaten 3 All-Ireland finalists in the last 2 seasons in Dublin, Galway and Kerry. They've beaten Cavan, they've beaten Cork, and people are still doubting them for an All-Ireland semi-final. They'll love that themselves. I think Sean Rafferty deserves huge praise. He's marked some marquee players for every county, including our own this year, especially Dublin as well. So Meath it should be fierce confident heading into an All-Ireland semi-final.
Absolutely. Liam, this group 4 we're wave goodbye to all 4 of them. It's funny when these draws are made, you often say, you're carrying a good strong group now, and get good tests, and we might have been critical of saying that ourselves along the way, but just goes to show, 2 from Kerry's group are into All-Ireland semi-finals. It's the only reason the draw to be split up, because Kerry played Meath. So it's just goes to show maybe being those tough groups might take it out of you. We saw it maybe similar enough in the hurling with Limerick getting knocked out by Dublin after a gritty Munster Championship campaign. Those tough grueling games, they were ran off over 3 or 4 weeks. It is tough, and when you're in a tough group like that, it can take its toll.
It does. And I suppose, look, we're always kind of looking to see, can you time your run, can you get to maybe quarter-final, semi-final, and then peak. Obviously the group of death, I suppose it did cause a death, all right, in all of them, but it's just I suppose they were John's favourites to win Ireland and Galway, and the wheels came off him the minute John went back in them. The wheel came off him altogether. So I blame John for it. But to be fair, like Galway probably were the one team that were kind of on a downhill slope front edge on the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, and their injuries came back, again, and obviously Comer coming off the bench, Shane Welsh not fully fit. But I suppose you have to mention Dublin as well, Ivan, tonight. The end of an era, I think, in Gaelic football. Dessie Farrell didn't realise from under 13 up what an impact on Dublin football. What a nice guy, and what he has done, and what Dublin football have done for the GA in the last 10 or 12 years. They've been an example of how to play the game, how to carry yourself on and off the field. And I've no doubt they'll be back, but it's a transition. And it was an emotional interview by Dessie Farrell, stepping down. Obviously mind made up when we were beaten and gone, but they made a huge impact in the GA, and they went down as one of the great football teams of all time.
But what's worrying for Dublin is that they're not even competing at underage in Leinster at the moment. So they're you could say their conveyor belt, it really isn't producing a whole pile either, so it's going to take a few years now for Dublin to get back to where they were before.
I reckon you got a good price for the Limerick footballers to be in All-Ireland final and the Dublin hurlers to be in All-Ireland semi-final. The Limerick hurlers and the Dublin footballers both knocked out. Keep the texts coming in. We're going to be looking at the minor final after the break. 083 300 3300. You can text or WhatsApp us there. As you say, you can give Niamh a call. 066 7123 666. We'll be back hearing the thoughts of Sean Kavanagh, who I caught up with during the week ahead of Tyrone against Kerry in the minor All-Ireland final next weekend. Yeah, you're welcome back to Terrace Talk. A lot of texts coming in. We'll try to get to most of them in this hour. If not, we get to them in the next hour as well. One that we meant to come to before the break there was that late tackle by Rian O'Neill on Dylan Casey. Liam, it was a high enough one, wasn't it?
It was a dangerous tackle. It was a kind of an angry tackle, Ivan. At the end of the game, you could see there was frustrations there. You'd be disappointed if it happened earlier in the game that he wasn't shown the sideline. It was a nasty one.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we're looking ahead to two games against Tyrone over the next 2 Sundays. The first coming up, this one in Newbridge, of course. All-Ireland minor final. Great to have a Kerry team back in a minor final. Well, I crossed enemy lines during the week, so unfortunately we didn't get to ask Sean about the seniors. Well, we mentioned the seniors at the end. He actually laughed. I told him if Tyrone did a job on Dublin, we do a job in Armagh for him, and I got it bang on. But I suppose Sean Kavanagh, he was minor champion 2001 thereafter unveiling a wall of fame in Croke Park to dedicate to the minor successes over the last couple of years. But Sean spoke to me about Kerry Tyrone in the minor final. Have a listen to this. It's about watering tie always. Kerry Tyrone always gets the blood flowing, I think, for both counties, and it's eagerly anticipated down here for next weekend as well.
Any All-Ireland final, any age group does that, but in Tyrone we always love to see the green and gold coming. I'm sure it's the same with yourselves. There's been that rivalry that's been harnessed, and I even remember back to late 90s, early 2000s, and minors and 21 levels. There a lot of the stars that were part of those. Like I remember playing against the Gooch at minor level. I remember Declan O'Sullivan, Brian Cullen from Dublin. Some of the greatest rivalries we had, and particularly between Tyrone and Kerry, were born in those minor pitches. So hopefully Sunday gives us a few more future stars, and there's a little bit of momentum up here in Tyrone as well. The fact that we won the under-20s and we're doing quite good at minor level, and I know we seem to be coming up against Kerry an awful lot recently at these levels. So I hope the results continue in the same fashion that they have been.
Yeah, look, talk to me about that, Sean, because I mean, from a Kerry perspective, we found it tough over the last couple of years, the latter stages of both under 20 and minor against northern teams. I think Monaghan, Derry, Tyrone all beat us kind of at finals or semi-final stages. Is there anything you can put that down to? I mean, from a Kerry perspective, is it something in the head maybe against one of the northern counties, or is there any reason for it maybe?
I'm not sure why it's a Kerry thing, to be honest, Ivan. Obviously Kerry are producing great teams at those levels. I can see a bit of a step up and a sea change in the likes of, particularly in my own county. I can't speak an awful lot. I know Derry had been very successful there for a few years at minor level, but I know in Tyrone our participation levels just and having players even from a lot of sort of non-traditional maybe GA backgrounds, we're either like new communities moving in the area, maybe some people that weren't traditionally maybe from a religious background that played GA and stuff, and we're starting to get new members across the board, and there's been a lot of good work being done from an infrastructure perspective around the grounds, and it just feels there's a real sort of wave and momentum right now, particularly in Tyrone football, which we're seeing clubs that maybe like my own club and under 12 or 14 team. Whenever I was playing, there might have been 14 or 15 players at that level, and now there's maybe 25 and 30. It's just we're just the participation levels of the game is growing. We've got a lot of right around coaching, and at schools level, we're competing really well, and that's translating then into sort of county stuff. So look, I think there's a lot to be admired from the good work that's really been done, and we're maybe learning and catching up with like yourselves and Dublin in that regard somewhat, but it's pretty positive from this side of things.
Good stuff. What have you made of the change back down to the 17s? I think we're in the 6th or 7th year of it now. The players are a small bit younger, but does it get them into the real competitive kind of football that kind of year younger maybe? What's your view on it?
I'm not really sure, Ivan, to be honest. Like I was at the time. I remember thinking I'm not totally convinced that it. Because I always kind of enjoyed watching the guys at minor level and then seeing them kind of progress straight on to senior level. I know that's what I did as a player. I played All-Ireland minor final in maybe October 2001, and maybe the following month I was part of the senior panel, and and I always enjoyed being part of that big day along with the seniors and things as well. So I'm not convinced is probably the best way of putting it, but look, minor's minor. It brings out the best players. It gets us to see them, and equally, look, I'm sure someone could make an argument that the standalone games are good in their own right, and we're all getting to see a lot of them. I'm just not totally sold, and I don't know whether it'll ever change again. But I'm sure somebody smarter than me will probably tell me the reasons why it is working. Yeah,
you might have a similar answer to the next one. You just touched on it there. The Waterford hurling manager mentioned it this morning that the games being out of Croke Park and not being part of All Ireland final day, it's kind of disappointing for his players. I mean, for a Kerry and Tyrone perspective, I think to be a lovely mouth-watering curtain raiser to an All Ireland final in a couple of weeks' time. Newbridge is obviously a fantastic venue as well, but taking them out of Croke Park, just for your own experience, obviously going with Tyrone into Croke Park and everything else, is it something that takes away maybe from the young lads a bit? Or
yeah, I think so, Ivan. As a player, I know I always like that was a huge draw for me, being able to play as a curtain raiser in Clonus, where as a kid I went and stood on the hill and watched the Peter Ganovan's this world play, and just dreamed of gracing that pitch, and the fact that then I was able to do it and at a minor level and sort of walk off whilst those guys were coming on. It helped you grow up. It gave you a serious motivation, and you felt, going out that morning, knowing all the flags were out and knowing that there was a huge occasion happening, and you were part of that. It brought you to a new height and a new level, and I find it a little bit maybe disappointing, really. And the going to the games even now and watching the senior, like I always enjoyed going that little bit earlier and watching the minors, and now. A lot of the games that go to, there'll either be no game on, or it might be like I think maybe a couple of years ago it was like was it like New York and Kilkenny and I don't even what it was, international competition or junior competition or something. But for me, I always felt there was a huge value in the minor being part of the big day. And I think as for the work that's been put in with the counties and the managers and the fact that we are seeing some of the best players, a bit like the David Cliffords, the future David Cliffords, are going to be representing Tyrone and Kerry next weekend, and would I want to see that in All Ireland final day? I would love it. So yeah, I'm not totally sold on the idea of playing it as standalone. Again, someone might tell me differently, but I know it was one of the big motivating factors for me as a player. Anyway,
There we go. I crossed enemy lines for about 7 or 8 minutes. I turned back and got out of there as quick as I could. Sean Kavanagh, delighted to have a chat with him and his views. I suppose, look at Liam, it's the minor All-Ireland. It mightn't kind of feel, I think, everything from yesterday and the buzz of that, and then it not be on in Croke Park, but at the end of the day the players have to go out and get a job done next week, and great excitement for the young lads in Kerry as well.
It's huge for their family, their friends, their clubs, the players themselves, but it's just like a pity, and John and our opinions here about what they did to the minor thing. It wouldn't it be lovely if it was played next week in front of the Kerry Tyrone semi-final. Have the guys run out in Croke Park, but I've no doubt that Wayne and the management team are really looking forward to it. Big task, what we're hearing from across the borders, that these are, now I didn't see the semi-final because I was above it with our own semi-final with Tim, and I hear they're a big strong team. We see they're under 20s and we see the college teams with the last couple of years. They're big strong mobile teams. They seem to all played similar enough. What they try to do is they try to suck you in and catch you on the break, and they did that with our under 20s as well, and I thought we were kind of very naive to it. So I'm hoping that we can keep a few bodies back and not to have too many spaces and let them take advantage of that. But look, I think that Kerry will look after themselves because they had a very good semi-final. We have some fantastic players. Garrod White, I suppose, is probably the name that comes to everyone's lips, but he's eagerly joined up there up front by the likes of Ben Kelleher, 9 points, man of the match you could say in the Ireland semi-final. Kevin Griffin, big strong young fella from South Kerry in around the full forward line. You have O'Shane Curtin, then two good workhorses around the middle of the field. Nick Lacey, it'll be interesting to see will he start. There's kind of a good old battle there between himself and Ty Connell, two very good scoring corner forwards. Nick came on the last day, kicked the winner, a good guy to bring off the bench. But defensively we're strong. Ronan Sheridan had the man of the match in the thing as well, the last in the semi-final. Tyke Slattery, Danny Murphy in the wing, only 15 years of age I think, having a fantastic season wing back. Marcus Clifford from Fiery Andrews club at the other side, thought he had a great game. Two sergeants, you had David was centre back, next thing his brother was sprung from the bench as a sub goalkeeper. What will happen there? Will he start? There's a lot of interesting things there, and it's and when I was kind of going through today, it's 2018 since we won the minor. It's been a while, and I think that was around Paul Welch's time of Brosnan and Killian Falvey and Owen Scal. Now these guys, so these Kerry minors now have a chance to put their name up in lights, and I think our win yesterday will really give them a boost as well. Yeah.
John, we're quickly heading for the hooter here. That kind of voodoo against the northern teams over the last couple of years, especially at the underage level, time to right those wrongs maybe in a final. It always seems to be kind of coming up to semi-finals and stuff like that, but does it feel like there's something out for us with these northern teams?
Yeah, Tyrone, they'll be very difficult to beat. I saw the Tyrone Roscommon game, very strong, very composed. They were under pressure, but they ground out the result. Well coached team and that, but look, like him said, have to agree with it. Wayne and the selectors, they have a great job done. Very even bunch, and they're finishing games well. So we'll be hoping that, again, like the lads last week, hoping there's a big Kerry crowd up there. It's difficult to keep going to all these games for people, but huge occasion. Great for the clubs involved and for the families. And once you perform on the day, that's all you can hope for an underage team. Sometimes it can bypass players, but perform on the day. I think if Kerry perform to their ability, we could be in for a cracking game. But Tyrone will be favourites, and and deservedly so.
Yeah, absolutely. Liam, just very, very quickly before we finish up, rude not to mention our ladies, of course, in the quarter-final, a home quarter-final, 7:30 in Ostack Park on Saturday against Kildare. A huge chance again for the Kerry faithful to come out and support the ladies.
A massive chance, Ivan, but I think we'd have to be wary because this Kildare team, after putting Armagh out, they're kind of coming in under the radar, so I presume the Kerry management won't take them for granted. Look, big crowd hopefully down in Ostack Park. The last couple of years they had home quarter-finals, so we'll be hoping for the same the next day and get on the road, maybe heading to retain that title. Yeah,
absolutely. And it's kind of nice that it's landing on the weekend that the Kerry team are in their gap. It's 7:30 on a Saturday, it's at home, so a good excuse for people to go, and the very best of luck to Mark Burke and all the ladies there. Lads, thanks very much for popping in this evening. We've a lot of comments to get to. We'll try to get around to them in the second hour as well, and we'll chat all again next weekend, I suppose, after the minor final and after the ladies. But time to head for news at 7 o'clock.